In this video, I'm gonna show you how to create this heart, which is just made out of children's clay and alcohol-based makeup. This took me about a half an hour to make, maybe not even. It's really simple, really easy, very effective if you're using it for a prop for film. Now, I do have many variations of this heart, and this heart in particular is one of more of the bloody ones, but in this video, I'm gonna show you how to do a lighter version. I'll link my other effects videos in the corner, and if you enjoy this video or any of my effects videos, please be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Because I'm just making this heart for a video, I'm gonna be using the air dry clay. I used this back in like, I think 2013, possibly even 2012 when I made my last heart. It works really well. It is air dry. It does take a couple days to dry if you're making it very, very thick. So keep that in mind if you want to make a heart that is going to be more heavy, thick, and you're gonna have for a very long time, you might want to go with a harder clay than something that stays a very little bit squishy. And I'm just gonna be making mine solid. You could always fill the middle of it with something else. If you wanted to maybe use like newspaper or duct tape or something in the middle, you could do that and then surround it as opposed to making it solid. I'm just pulling off a chunk and making a heart type shape for right now. And I also want to make sure it is a good size. By the way, this air dry clay, it does not smell good. I don't know what it smells like, but it does not smell good. I'm just generally going to smooth it out. I'm not concerned about it being like super, super smooth because it's going to be having some ridges and stuff in it anyways. Not that I actually know what a human heart looks like. I'm not a surgeon, you know. I'm just a body painter. So once you have your ball of clay, you guys are a little upside down, sorry. I'm gonna start to press it towards the bottom to make more of that heart type shape. Once you have your shape, I'm then just gonna take a little more clay and start to make our ventricles and etc. And I think I'm just gonna kind of get the general shape first and then stick it on. That's gonna be way too big. And I'm using an anatomy reference photo for the heart. And I'm smoothing all areas into the clay because I don't want it to fall off. I remember when I did this back in 2013, maybe 2012, it did want to start to separate just because of the weight of the clay because I don't have anything filling it in the middle. So I'm just making sure this is stuck down in all these areas. And for this particularly, I want to keep that opening right there too. I don't want to smooth it entirely into the heart, but I just want to smooth in the edges into the clay. But also quite a bit of the edges because like I said, I want it to be pressed into the heart, not just kind of like boop, stuck on. And if you guys don't have acrylic nails like me, you can use sculpting tools, but I'm just using the back of my nail because it's just like, you know, whatever. It's funny when I see those things online and it's like, people with acrylic nails must not have to do any housework, must not have to do anything like that. Like, pfft, I don't see you sculpting a heart with your nails, telling me I can't do things with my nails, please. I do plenty with my acrylics. I'm also not super concerned about the back because I know I'm gonna be dropping this in my video. We've got one on, and now I'm going to be adding the other one coming from this direction. And actually looking at the reference photo, this needs to be built up in here also. Yeah, more like that. Now I'm gonna be making this back guy back there, like that. And then I also know I wanna open up this middle part in here. Once again, just using my nails. They're like heart spoons. I also know that I just want it, when it's dropped, to be visibly open from the front, so I'm gonna squish down the front a little more so when it's painted you're able to see that this part of the heart actually is open there. Now that we're at this stage, I'm gonna add the other one coming from the front up here. I'm gonna add that over here, kind of resting on this one back here, that way it has some support. And I'm gonna squish this down into the heart. Once again, just like the other side, I know that I want this center part in here to be carved out. I also want it to have like some sort of like wiggly lookingness to it. I don't want it to just be like a flat hole. So I'm pushing down some of the edges, make it look a little more floppy, I guess. There's also another little guy that kind of pokes out from behind here, so I'm just gonna add that little baby one on there. And realistically, I just want it kind of poking out from the side. Because I'm dropping it, I'm not concerned about how it's actually gonna look from the back. So in this case, this is good enough, but if you're going to actually be creating it all the way around, you would also open it up like this guy. You can leave it plain like this, but I know I wanna add some little vein kind of looking things. I'm probably not using like the correct medical terms for this heart. I know I'm not, because I'm not looking up terminology, I'm just looking up reference photos. So if you know what you're talking about, you can let me know in the comments below, but I'm gonna be adding some little veins, blood vessels throughout the heart as well. Which realistically, I'm sure you guys made worms when you were in kindergarten, so you should be able to add them just fine. And I like to blend in one side so it looks a little thinner on the heart and like it's coming off of it, not just laying on top of it. Actually, you know what? I take that back. When I said I've never seen a human heart, I actually think I have seen a human heart, because in high school, we went and saw cadavers. I know for sure I've seen like a liver. But now that I think about it, I think I actually have seen an actual human heart. Zoom in a little bit for you guys here so you can see. And if your worms break, don't be too sad, because you're probably gonna be breaking it off anyways. This is as much sculpting as I'm gonna do for the heart for this project. I don't have enough time to let this clay dry, so I am gonna go get my paint. I'm gonna be using alcohol-based makeup actually to paint this heart. Usually I would let it dry. Like I said, it could take a couple days for it to dry since it is so thick, but I don't have time for that. And I also want it to be a little squishy when I do drop it, so it kind of makes more of a plop. Now, unfortunately for this heart, because it's gonna be dropped, it's also gonna be covered in quite a bit of blood, but I'm going to paint it fully just to show you guys how to paint it, and because I like to paint. So I'm gonna be using the SFX Illustrator, and then I'm also gonna be using a Skin Illustrator palette. These are both makeup palettes. They are alcohol activated. You will need 99% isopropyl alcohol to activate them, and sponges to paint with. And I'm gonna start by basing it out using Coral Adjuster and Natural No. 2, just to give it some sort of color to start out. Of course, you guys can use different paints to paint this once it's actually dry. I really like using the alcohol-based makeup just because it's already made to look like an injury or etc. on the skin, so it makes it a little easier to color things such as organs. They're also very translucent, so I don't have to worry about it actually looking like it's too heavy, like acrylic paint or something. And for any areas that are a little harder to get into, you can go ahead and use a brush, but as you can see, it turns out a lot more opaque than translucent, which is okay because we're gonna be adding shadows anyways. And as long as you have a little bit of alcohol on your sponge, you could blend it out pretty well. I'm filling in these gaps using just the Coral Adjuster. With this heart not being dry, I have to be very, very careful with turning it, or else I'm gonna get nail marks in it and I'm gonna have it all squished and basically eliminate any work that I already did. Inside of the holes, I'm adding Coral Adjuster to start out, and I'm not blending any of that actually out. I just wanna get it filled and get some color in there. I'm also gonna run a little bit of this Coral Adjuster on the underside of these veins that I created. I already know someone's gonna be a medical student and they're gonna be like, those are not called veins. So already, just with some Coral Adjuster and Natural No. 2, this looks pretty gross. But I do wanna bring it a little more to life as if it just fell out. And like I said, I also am going to be, you know what? No, you know what I wanna do first? I don't wanna do that yet. I'm actually then going to be taking some vein tone and Natural No. 1, mixing a little bit of that together. I wanna add some veins, which more than likely I'm gonna have to add some more of this later anyways, because I'm gonna be making this, like I said, pretty bloody. You could really just leave it here if you wanted to. I have quite a bit of alcohol mixed in with this. It applies a little differently than it does on skin when you're applying it to clay. It's not meant to be applied to clay like this, but I want it to still be pretty translucent. And this is why I said I didn't care much about there being cracks and etc. in the clay, because I knew I was gonna be going back and adding some veins in there anyways. And I really could just use those to follow along for some added color. Now, because it's going to be quite bloody when I actually am using this heart, I'm gonna go in and add some aged blood tone, give it a little more of a red color, as well as some regular blood tone. I'm then adding some bruise tone to the inside of the holes here, as well as blood tone over that. This is how it's looking so far. And looking at it upside down, I could see there is an area that I want to blend a little more. There we go, that's a little better. Now I'm going to be darkening up everything with some black. And like I said, I knew I was probably gonna have to go back in and add some more blue into the certain areas once I got all this red on. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add that back in. And if you want any areas to look a little more bloody, you can go ahead and just straight up add blood tone in with your brush. And that is going to be it for this tutorial. Like I said, I'm going to be adding some blood on it in the video, which I will link the video that this heart is going to be used in. And like I said, if you're going to be using this type of clay or following this tutorial, make sure you let your clay actually dry before you start painting it so you don't have to worry about it being sticky as you are dealing with it. If you guys enjoy these type of videos, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll love you forever.